I'm Lou Goldstein, and welcome to another edition of Focus On. Before we get started with tonight's guests, I'd like to thank everybody for their well wishes. I'm feeling much better. I want to thank all of you who sent your cards in and your emails and your texts. So I'm doing fine and back to doing some shows, and just wanted to thank you. So tonight on the show, we have people who you've seen before, Nick and Bob Finamore. They were on my show before. They had written the Two Jersey Brothers book, and now they're out with this sequel, Bond of Brothers, which is available for you to read right now on Amazon. I urge everybody to get out there and get on Amazon and buy it. It's a great book, and I'm sure you'll really appreciate it, especially if you've read their first book. So, Bob, Nick, thank you very much for, getting away from your busy schedule and joining me today, and hope you guys are doing well.
Thanks for having us, Lou. Appreciate it.
It's good. So we'll be talking a lot about the book, and we'll be hearing from each one of them. But before we do that, I'd like to give everyone out there a little background on Nick and Bob. And Bob's career in education spanned 35 years, during which he served as a teacher, a coach, a driving instructor, and a disciplinarian athletic director. An athlete from a very young age, he received many athletic accolades, most notably Most Valuable Player awards in high school, college at Memphis State University, and a postseason bowl game. He's also been inducted by his high school, college, and local athletic association, the Patterson Old Timers, and their halls of fame. Nick is a retired AT&T regional vice president with a 35-year career in engineering, computer systems, sales, and human resources. Upon retirement, AT&T contracted with him for another 12 years as a loaned executive under 3 New Jersey governors to assist in improving state operations. His post-retirement plans included becoming a pilot and partner in a Piper Arrow airplane, a performing pianist, a sailboat enthusiast on Cape Cod waters, and a licensed ham radio operator. And I'm very pleased that both of them are here with me today. And so the first question I have, and I think it would be the first question everybody would have, is, given that your previous book was written not that long ago, Two Jersey Brothers, how did you come up with the title of the book, Bond of Brothers? And maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
All right, yeah, let me answer that. First of all, Bob, when he was writing his narrative, and we did separate narratives, a lot of it, did come up with that term, Bond of Brothers. Well, it turns out that the editor that we have, who did our first book, in fact, Lorraine Ash, and she does the heavy lifting out of a company she has with her husband called Cape Cod Publishing. As she read through the book, she saw that we were together in high school, but then we went on very different paths. As you discussed, Bob went into education, and I went with a career at AT&T. But even so, along those very different paths, we always stayed together and in touch and helped each other. Bob loaned me money one time when I bought a shore house. I helped him with some work on his house in the attic and attic room and whatever. So once she saw that, she said, we're going to title this Bond of Brothers. And therefore, we went with it.
Do you have a copy of the book that you can hold up so everybody can see the cover?
There it is.
There you go. Bond of Brothers. Their
Our stories, their legacies, yeah.
Yeah, Bob and Nick Finamore. And who's the more handsome guy in those pictures?
We're both handsome. What can I tell you?
And where was that childhood picture taken with the two of you?
That was when we lived on Barber Street in Haledon. So more of the first book, but we were 10 or 11 years old. And I don't know if you could make out, but what we tried to do is duplicate. He was had his hand over my shoulder, etc. So
you tried to duplicate the shot. Yeah, it's great.
And Bob's daughter, Deanne, is the graphic artist, and she came up with that concept, which we thought was great, going from the past to the now.
Then and now, then and now type thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question for Bob, and I know the book covers a lot of this, but how were you recruited to play football at Memphis State?
My senior year in high school, there were three veterans returning. Good friend of mine, another good friend, teammate. And we had a dismal year. That year, 58, I'm sorry, 57, we had the Asian flu hit the East Coast. It took its toll on a lot of athletic events. We only played 7 games. Our record was 0-7 at the end of the season. And we have
consistent, yeah.
we have a classic football game in November, Thanksgiving Day Classic, Patterson Central High School and Patterson Eastside. And we got our butts kicked 40-0. Now, I had no thought of going to college. The season ended, and I decided I'm going to focus on baseball, which was my first love. So I got back to school a few months later. This friend of mine, Tony DeFranco, tremendous athlete, played 3 sports in high school. We were called down to the athletic director's office, and we walked in, and sitting there was the athletic director and Bill Vandercloster, notable coach from Clifton, New Jersey, who had coached for years. He was talking to us about playing football in the Big Ten, Division I in Minnesota with the Golden Gophers.
Okay.
A good friend of his who lived in Clifton, name of Ray Malavasi, was an assistant coach for Murray Warmouth. So he recruited in the New Jersey area, and Bill Vandercloster must have been impressed with Tony and I. So he dropped our name to Ray, and of course, Ray contacted us. We want you to come to Minnesota. So we were supposed to go north, Big Ten. We were stoked, excited, very interested. Over the summer, we find out that Ray Malavasi is going down to Tennessee. Billy J. Murphy, who also coached at for Murray Warmouth, Memphis State hired him to rebuild their program, and Ray, of course, went along with him. So instead of heading north, there were 4 of us, Bill Galeese and another football player from East Side. They recruited the 4 of us. We were going south down to Tennessee.
Right.
I didn't know too much about Tennessee. I knew it was hot down there. Memphis State was on the Mississippi River. Memphis was on the Mississippi River, and it was very hot, but I didn't care. I'm going to play Division I football, 4-year football scholarship. I was ready to go. And that's how it all happened. That's how it started.
Okay. So I know, Nick, you had some involvement at the state of New Jersey with saving dolphins at the Jersey Shore. And, recently we've seen whales come ashore, who were dead. And, but tell us a little bit about the Save the Dolphins effort at the Jersey Shore.
Kind of a long story, so I'll try to make it short and concise. But there was a fellow who worked for AT&T, lived in Massachusetts at the time, and they had him come down here to New Jersey for an opportunity. He was the vice president of quality for AT&T. Right. And his family had teenagers. He had a number of children, and they would go to Lake Winnipesaukee for their summers. Well, he decided when he got down here, let's go to the Jersey Shore. So they rented a place, and on a Monday morning, they all packed up, went to the beach, and the beach was closed. He couldn't believe it. He says, what is going on? Well, the water was polluted, the New Jersey ocean water. And being a guy of quality, he said, wait a minute. He said, I got to find out, what's the root cause? What is going on? And what he found out, it was a lot of E. coli, and they were closing the beach. So he got very involved. He contacted the Department of Environmental Protection, where I was working at the state, and got very involved in how to clean up the shore water. And I tell you, it was a long effort, and you can read a lot about it, what went on. We did root cause analysis, quality, and determined it wasn't New York with the needles coming into New Jersey.
Yeah,
It was 140 communities along the New Jersey shore that were polluting the water.
all at
And
the
so
same time.
we got into a cleanup.
Wow. How long did the cleanup take?
10 years.
10
And
years.
we had a measure that we put in place. Quality, you have to have a measure. At the time we started, there were 900 beach block closings a year. We got it down to 10 over that 10-year period.
Wow.
And I did some flyovers with the state of New Jersey troopers, the police, and that they had a helicopter. They also had a plane to see if there were any things going on in the water. And what the pilot told me when we started this thing, he said, Nick, I can't tell you, the water was brown at the time.
Right.
He said, now we can see whales and dolphins. So we got into calling it the dolphins are back.
That's great. Now I know, Bob, you had a very interesting athletic past, and I know it's covered in the book. But let's talk about how you were able to get a tryout with the New York Yankees.
Well, it wasn't a tryout. I was injured my junior year, and I came back and played in '64. Had a good season, and the Jets were interested in me.
Yeah, he's talking Yankees, I think.
Talking about the Yankees, yeah.
Yankees,
I'm sorry. I thought you were
That's
talking.
okay.
All right.
But we can talk about the Jets first. That's okay. Maybe we can talk a little bit about your experience in training camp with the Jets.
Yeah, it was very short, but and disappointing. But I had played as a down lineman most of my career at Memphis State, and they transitioned me to become a linebacker. I was getting acclimated to it. I had a couple good preseason scrimmages and preseason games, but they chose two other linebackers, and they cut me late in August before the season started. And I went back home, worked with my dad at his eatery, and I happened to get on a continental football team from New Jersey, the Newark Bears. So I
Okay.
played the season with them. I learned the position. And at the end of the season, they decided to go to Orlando, Florida, Orlando Panthers. And they were going to offer me a contract, but in between seasons, Uncle Sam had different thoughts. I got drafted into the service.
Right.
So the football career was on hold.
Now, let me just throw in a quick story about going back to the Jets camp, okay? 'Cause I find this interesting. Is one of the things they did is I gave my brother a football that would be autographed in the cafeteria as players were coming in and out. And of course, at that time, it was Joe Namath. We had John Ewart, who was a Heisman winner from Notre Dame.
Right.
And they all signed the football, okay? It was great. So my brother gives it back to me. And at the time, my son was 2-3 years old, thought nothing about it. But a few years later, he took the football and he went outside, played with it, and left it in the rain. And I forgot to use an indelible pen, ink. So it all got washed out. And I asked myself all the time, what would that have been worth today with all those signatures? Anyway.
That's funny. Now at the Jets training camp, Nick, you were like Bob. You said that John Hewitt, the Heisman Trophy from Notre Dame, was there, right, Bob? And so was
Yes.
Joe Willie Namath, right?
Right. When I got to camp, it was at Peekskill, New York, Peekskill Military Academy.
Right.
I was upstairs in my room, second floor. I'm looking out the window. Camp hadn't started yet. The players were just coming in. And this Continental Mark II comes up to the dorm, and the two managers quickly run out to the car. The door opens up. Broadway Joe steps out walks into the dormitory. The two trainers take all his luggage, his TV, bring it into the dormitory. So that was the first time I saw Willie Joe. But I played in a rookie game with him. In fact, I got some press after the game for my defensive play along with Joe. This was Joe's first game as a quarterback. We were up in Lowell, Massachusetts, and we won the game 10-7.
You remember those scores, huh? Some
Oh,
scores
yeah.
you don't forget.
Coaches don't forget the scores.
Was that Boston Patriots?
The Boston Patriots.
It wasn't New England at the time. No, you didn't
Yeah.
say that. Yeah.
Boston Patriots. And Joe Bellino was one of the rookies for Boston.
Oh yeah,
Remember
I
Joe
don't-
Bellino, right?
going back in time. Yeah.
Naval Academy, right?
Yeah, Naval Academy.
Now I know you, Nick. You mentioned when you were doing the Save the Dolphins, you were talking about your flyovers with the pilot, and now you later became an airplane pilot. So in your flying adventures, you tell a story about flamingos and what happened in Nagua Island in the Caribbean.
It turns out my partner in the plane, Ken Fitzgerald, was very adventuresome with the Arrow. He would fly to Florida with his family, and then they would fly from Florida over to the Bahamas. And his daughter, turns out, was also a pilot. So he was on an island, and he decided they wanted to see the island of Inagua that has 80,000 flamingos. And the reason there are flamingos there is it turns out that a salt company has canals where they bring in the seawater and it bakes down, and then they take the salt out of it. It's Morton salt, okay? So he flies down there with his daughter, lands on the island, and I get a phone call. It was cell phone at the time, and they had service. And he said, "Nick, how do you do the quick start on the Arrow?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "I can't start the plane." He says, "I'm stranded. I'd be stranded on an island. There's nothing here but 80,000 flamingos." So I took him through my process, which was similar to what he was doing. He kept at it, and finally the plane started and he was able to get off the island. So that's the Inagua story.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So Bob, I know you were in education for for a long time there, 35 years. And so why did you decide to leave the teaching profession? And maybe you can tell us some of the best and worst experiences that you had while you were in education.
The reason why I left, I got burned out. I was a little disappointed. I stopped coaching when my friend left, the head coach, Bill Galeese. I had worked with him at two other schools, and we went to the school that I was at when I quit. And I had taken another job beside teaching. I wasn't coaching, and it was an evening job. I wasn't getting a lot of sleep deprivation. My wife noticed it. My children noticed it. So I decided to move on, try something else. And I found a luncheonette in Kenilworth, New Jersey. Family had been involved in the food business, so I figured I'd give it a try. And I purchased the luncheonette. It was in an industrial area. It was mostly industrial business. And I plugged away for 3 years. And then I met my friend, Bill Galeese, who became a superintendent at another high school. And he offered me a job that I couldn't refuse. So I got back into education. Fortunately, I vested in a pension fund, so I didn't lose anything. And I just took up where I left off 3 years ago.
Great.
I just had the restaurant that they had in Kenilworth. Bob worked with our dad for those. I think it was all 3 years.
Yeah, one of the benefits was I had him with me, so he was
And of course,
once again, my boss, even though I owned the
Yeah,
restaurant.
keep an eye on
of
them.
course, we had worked with him from when we were 7, 8 years old when he had
Okay.
the time. So yeah.
We were weaned on a grill.
Yeah.
Let's tell everybody.
Yeah, right away, huh?
Yes.
That's great. So I know, Nick, you play some musical instruments too. And how'd you get started playing music?
Well, when I was about maybe 7 years old, my idol was my Uncle Al Carnival, who was an accordionist who was a professional musician. He traveled from Atlantic City in the summer, where he played, to Florida in the winter in hot weather, and that's all he did. And I kind of idolized him. And I started taking accordion lessons in Paterson, New Jersey. And then through grammar school, got into a number of bands. In
Right.
fact, we started playing very young. Our first gig was, I think, we were maybe 6th grade, and we played at PAL, Police Athletic League function, and went through there. Then I got into a variety of other bands, one called the Chessmen, and continued my career until I had 3 children, and I decided maybe I couldn't play till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night anymore, and then I got out of it for a while. Then I came back and played for some senior luncheons for like 8 years at the Brownstone with an outfit called the Jersey Dreamers. So piano, I transitioned from accordion to piano in Oregon, and had a lot of fun.
Great. Sounds like fun. Have any groupies?
Oh yeah. Musicians always have groupies, right?
I'm sure.
When
But
you're on
at least
stage,
you're having fun.
there's a mystique about that, I think.
Something about it. I don't know what it is. It's kind of like doing TV shows, you know?
There you go.
But I think the funny thing is that, when I saw this, Bob, and I mentioned it earlier, that I knew you were basically a football guy. I didn't know you were that strong in baseball. And I didn't know the New York Yankees were interested in you. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Well, I started playing baseball when I was 12 years old. Lived in Haledon, New Jersey. They had the PAL had 2 teams, the Blues and the Reds, and I was on the Blues, and we played in a league where we played other communities in the surrounding area, Wayne, North Haledon, Paterson.
Right.
And I went on to play in high school. When I was a freshman, I made the varsity team. I was a catcher, and I was a little disappointed when I got to high school. There was a upperclassman who was a catcher, Pat the Lemon, and my friend, who I had mentioned earlier, he was also a catcher. So I was relegated to the outfield and first base, but I didn't mind as long as I could play the game.
Right.
And I played my 4 years, and then I went on to college, and of course I had to focus on football. But when I came home during the summer, I always played baseball somewhere. And I caught on to a team, Haledon, was called the Granitel Giants. It was sort of a farm club for the New York Giants.
Oh, okay.
And one game, pitcher threw the ball, he hung a curveball, and I whacked it. It went it went over the left fielder's head and landed in the road at the other end of the field. And of course, I took off. I knew I hit the ball very well, and I wasn't looking where the ball had gone. I just was rounding the bases. They were telling me that when I got to third base, the left fielder was just picking up the ball off the lawn across the street from the field. So they were all telling me to slow down. And I guess there was a spectator there, and he must have called the the Yankees, and they told me to come over to Yankee Stadium and for a tryout. When I got there, my friend Tony DeFranco was there too, so we were both catching, and it was another cup of coffee with the New York Giants because we only lasted for the morning session. We weren't asked back for the afternoon session. And what they did is they timed you running to first base, around the bases, and then they had pitchers who were trying to make an impression. They're trying to strike you out. So you're really not going to get a good ball to hit, and that's about it. So that was my experience with the New York Yankees. But I was all excited. I sat in the dugout where
Oh, sure.
DiMaggio was, Phil Rizzuto, Babe Ruth. I was out on the field, so it was incredible.
I'm sure it was a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah, right,
Just to have that, you know.
right. Just to be there.
So I know the book's out on Amazon, and I know, Nick, that maybe you can hold that book up again so everybody can see it. And this way, everybody who read or knew of the two Jersey brothers, this is the sequel, Bond of Brothers, the story of Nick and Bob Finamore. And it's their stories, their legacies, and it's on Amazon, as I said before. And go buy it. You know, it's a great book. The two great guys here, as you can see. And I loved having you on. And I just can't wait to see the third book that's going to come out, because I know this book's like twice as long. So the third book has to be the ultimate, you know, trilogy, because everything comes in threes. So you have to do
There
another.
you go. Well, it'll be an audio book. The first book was 36,000 words. This book is 83,000 words.
Ooh,
So for $13.95, you got a lot more words.
So everybody's looking forward to the audiobook too. And it was great having you both on, and just reading and reliving your experiences is just something that, you know, more people should do. It's good for history, and it's good for, you know, people to know exactly what you did. And you accomplished a lot in a short time, and I give you both a lot of credit for what you did.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody out there, like I said before, one last time, it's the book is Bond of Brothers. It's on Amazon, and go get it. You know, it's going to sell like hotcakes. So, you know, get your book first, and before everybody else does, and it sells out. Okay. Well, I'm Lou Goldstein, thanking Bob and Nick Finamore for coming on tonight, and thanking all of you for watching. And I'll see you next week on another edition of Focus On. Until then, stay healthy, stay active, stay focused, and take care of each other. Okay. Have a good night.
Every day, don't say